YouTube, hey there, it's Casey Dimon, TaxSellAcademy.com. Thank you again for joining me. I'm going to record an episode for the Tax Sell Podcast. If you do enjoy listening to a podcast on the go, check us out. There's a link down below. It'll take you to TaxSellPodcast.com. But if you prefer the video version, that's great too. Just let me know by clicking that thumbs up button. And you also might want to consider subscribing to our channel. That way you don't miss out on future training videos. Let's go ahead and switch on over and record that audio podcast right now. Welcome to the Tax Sell Podcast, where tax sell investing is made easy. My name is Casey Dimon. I'm a tax sell veteran. I'm the author of the Tax Sell Playbook, founder of the Tax Sell Academy. I'm the leading tax sell expert and trainer, and I'm your host right here on the Tax Sell Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast. This podcast is provided completely free because of the Tax Sell Academy. If you're looking to learn more about investing in tax-defaulted real estate in a comprehensive step-by-step manner, just head on over to TaxSellAcademy.com and click on Join to become a member of the Tax Sell Academy. All right, today's episode hopefully changes your entire perspective on how you properly invest in tax-defaulted real estate, at least according to my opinion. The truth is, it might actually also change the way you look at many other things in your life too. So I still consider myself fairly young. I know that I have many listeners who are maybe 15, 16 years old, and they think I'm an old guy. I also have listeners who are 80, 85 years old and think I'm just a baby. But regardless, I consider myself young. When I was even younger, everybody would always tell me all the old sayings about how quickly time flies. Now, I am constantly asking myself where the week went, where the month went, or even where the year went. To my older listeners, this sounds obvious. To the younger listeners, it sounds exaggerated. But the point is that time passes whether we want it to or not. And it seems to do so at rapid rates. Now, I could sit here all day and tell you about how important time is and how important it is to get going, to get started, to pull the trigger. But this is a Tax Sell Podcast, not an inspirational or motivational podcast. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. If you want to get started, you're going to look back one day and wish you had started sooner. That's it, okay? So start tax sell investing now. When we take the importance and the value of time and apply it to real estate and to tax sell investing, it's such a concept that many in real estate just don't take serious enough. They feel zero urgency in everything they do. I have a friend who is an airplane broker. He also invests in real estate, and we were talking just a few weeks back. He's buying a home to hold as a rental. And he's buying a number of homes where he's leveraging some stuff, and he's getting some financing and that kind of thing, okay? He tells me about the process he's going through. He said, this is completely mind-numbing, as if I didn't already know. First, you submit an offer. Then you get a response a day or two later. Then you go back and forth until you have everything worked out. Then the title company does their thing. The lender gets all their docs, and they ask for some more docs and some more. And then by the time everything's passed, everything's approved, a month or a month and a half has gone by. You've wasted 30 or 45 days trying to buy one house. Ridiculous, right? He kept telling me how ridiculous and how outdated the process was, and I completely agree. He told me he could sell a $10 million jet in just a matter of days. The fact is, he's right. Real estate by nature is a very slow developing process. The key is to find a way to speed it up so it works better for you. You don't have to do the same exact thing that everybody else in the history of real estate has done. You don't have to wait 45 days to buy a property, to sell a property. Figure out a way to speed it up. I'm such a fan of using alternative strategies to speed this process up. I'm huge on buyer's list, on selling tax deed properties as is, on closing extremely quickly. And I'm not just a fan because I'm impatient. I'm a fan because without that sort of speed, I would have never survived my early years in this business. When you're a tax sell investor, especially a new investor with very limited funds, your product, your inventory is what you purchase. Just like a retail store does not make a dime until they sell whatever it is they are selling, you won't make a dime until you sell or otherwise profit from that investment. And the longer it takes, the less you're making per day. And it can make it very, very difficult when you have to wait 30, 45, 60 days to capitalize on your investment. Let me give you an example. Let's say I had $1,000 to invest in maybe a vacant lot. I did well with it. And if I sold it at full price, in 45 days from now, I could triple my money and sell it for $3,000. That's fantastic. But what if I just waited only 7 days? And instead of selling it for $3,000, I took $2,000 for it. Sure, I'd leave $1,000 on the table, but the speed would often make it worthwhile. It meant that I could reinvest that money, and by the time that 45-day period had expired, I would have made substantially more money in the end. When you look at it from just a numbers perspective on that one transaction, you can make $44 per day selling it at the higher price, or $143 per day selling it at the lower price in a shortened window. Now, obviously, it doesn't always work that way. That's best case scenario type stuff. But being able to quickly move real estate provides such a huge advantage to you over other investors and also to yourself over the conventional, the old-fashioned methods. All right, so when you factor in inflation, nearly everyone that lives an average length lifespan will make more than $1 million in their career. The problem, though, is that $1 million might come over 20 or 30 years for you. What you must figure out how to do is make that same amount of money in a much shorter period of time. That's what the 6% of the population who are millionaires have done. Shorten that time period for all aspects of your business. By turning over properties quickly, it allows you to roll your money over extremely quickly. It allows you to significantly limit holding costs, including the amount of time your capital is tied up. Any insurance costs, any taxes, it limits your liability holding period. It limits the amount of lost opportunities that you didn't have any money for. It just allows you to grow your business so much quicker. I've got a number of ways to sell properties very, very quickly that we discuss inside the Academy. And we also touch on it in this podcast. We also talk about it on my YouTube channel. But typically, they'll revolve around prearranged buyers and or a very targeted audience of ready, willing, and able buyers. Now, in exchange for selling properties so quickly, you'll usually need to sell at a slightly discounted price, but that's okay. There will always be a threshold that's going to make you comfortable between leaving too much money on the table and leaving too much time on the table. Always factor in time in every investment that you make. But of course, selling it below market value is going to be perfectly acceptable if you purchased it and went into that investment correctly. If you need to get full market value or even over market value to make money off of an investment, then that means you paid too much money for that property in the first place. Personally, I'd much rather leave money on the table than leave time on the table. The money can always be made up. There's always time to make more money. There is not any way on this earth that you can create more time. So as you enter your next investment, I want you to be very aware of your selling strategies. Don't just factor in the same basic stuff, costs, taxes, insurance, closing fees, that kind of stuff. Factor in the most important aspect, time. How long will you have that property? Based on your expected returns, what are you making per day off of that investment? Is there a way that you can make an equally as profitable return in a shorter period of time, perhaps? Now, I never want you to go into investments blindly. And I actually don't recommend that you just follow the crowd and do the same thing everybody else does. If you can, and that suits you, and you're making money and you're happy, that's fantastic. But understand that there are different ways that are better than people have done in the past. And in my opinion, at least, selling properties quickly is the key to long-term sustainable success while growing your business exponentially as a tax sale investor, especially when you're just getting started in this business. Guys, that's it for today's episode. You can probably tell this is something I'm very, very passionate about. As I mentioned earlier, this is the very reason I was able to see success in this business. I started with just a little bit of money, and by turning properties over quickly, I was able to grow it and grow it and grow it. It's also something that we teach about in great detail inside the Tax Law Academy. If you are ready to get started with training that's actionable and easy to implement, just head on over to taxlawacademy.com, click on join, and become a member of the Academy. Again, that's taxlawacademy.com and click on join. That's it for today's episode. If you did enjoy this podcast episode, please take a few minutes out of your day to leave us a 5-star rating on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to us on. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we really hope that you found lots of value out of today's episode. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.